Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 12 sector collaboration series, Parent Sector. This is part of our 12 sector series that Jennifer Jacobson, one of our team at TTAS, the Prevention Training and Technical Assistance Service, created. And we have discussed other sectors in the past, including schools, youth, law enforcement, business, youth serving organizations, probably somebody else too, but today we're going to be focused on parents, and we're fortunate to have 3 coalition coordinators and members joining us today. We'll be talking about that. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the SPIF, the Strategic Prevention Framework, rather quickly. I'm not going to read everything on the slides, but we're going to talk a little bit about the SPIF, the 5 steps, and how we might engage parents in that. And then we're going to get to the stars of the show, our panelists, who are going to talk about some of the things they've done in terms of parents' engagement and what it's like to be a parent as well. Okay. Here we go. Okay, this learning event, I just mentioned, talks about the strategic prevention framework and how we're going to talk about parents as one of the 12 sectors. In that, we're going to walk through the parent sector within the SPIF model, gain knowledge on different levels of sector involvement, learn from our coalition speakers, identify some ways to engage with the sector, as well as some barriers and some strategies for overcoming that, provide you with some tools, show you our website, and then we're hopefully going to have some time for question and answers. So most of you are familiar with the Strategic Prevention Framework. If you're not, note that in the chat box, and we will be happy to send you links to our SPIF 101 training, as well as some presentation slides and a handbook about the SPIF, if you would like that. And we can talk about that later in more depth if you want. But basically, there's 5 steps to the Strategic Prevention Framework. This is the planning model, the public health planning model that prevention professionals use, both in Connecticut and across the country. And there's 5 steps to the process. The first one is assessment, identifying what is the problem based on needs, based on data that we collect, local data that we collect, and we put that in the context of state and national data. But basically, we want to know, what is the priority problem? What is the substance that is of most concern to us? And what are the, where is it used? When is it used? Who's the priority population? And what are the associated risk and protective factors that we may be able to address? Capacity refers to the resources and readiness that we have to work with this and target this particular priority substance. And population, it's what do we have to work with? And that's both at the coalition level as well as the community level. Planning is when we want to come up with a comprehensive plan using multiple strategies to target those priority risk and protective factors. Implementation, the 4th step, is basically when we put that plan into action. And it's identifying the who's going to do the work, what they're going to do, when, where, etc. And then evaluation is the last one. And that's basically collecting both process data, what we did, how we did it, and outcome data. Have we seen the changes that we're hoping for? And that information can allow us to tweak our plan or make some changes to our plan, if necessary. And we have 2 cross-cutting principles that should be integrated. One is cultural competency, and that's basically the ability to understand and communicate effectively with people who have different values, lifestyles, tradition. One of the things we are often using in place of the term cultural competence is diversity and inclusion, making sure we're identifying underserved populations and including them. not only in the people we serve, but also in the planning process to make sure that our program resonates and meets their needs. And then the last one is sustainability. And that's thinking about what we're doing prevention over the long term. How do we maintain the system that we've set up as well as these positive outcomes? How do we build it over time so we can continue the good work that we've done? And like I said, I would be happy to address this more if people would like to talk more after, if you're not familiar, if this is new or you need materials. And please let us know if you have questions in the chat, and we will stop periodically to address those. Okay, parent sector, we're defining that. Individuals legally responsible for a child, grandchild, or foster child. And we know parents are a critical part of the 12 sectors that we engage in our coalition work, because they are, as we know, kids and teenagers' first teachers, and they play a critical role in terms of being a protective factor in whether or not kids use substances, and being able to identify perhaps first if kids may have an issue with substance misuse. We know from research that young people will often cite their parents as the #1 influence in terms of them not using substances, either not wanting to disappoint their parents, not wanting to get in trouble with their parents, or because their parents have talked with them about the risks of substances, have talked about consequences and are monitoring them as well. So that serves as a powerful protective factor. And we want to get them involved. And one of the ways we can do that is just by elevating their voice and their perspective. Ask them when we're going through each of those 5 steps, you know, what is their take on the substance misuse problem? What are they hearing from their peers, from their students? What are they seeing? Asking about their knowledge of issues and concerns confronting youth. And that's really important too with COVID and mental health, as we integrate mental health into our substance misuse work. Engaging their participation in the coalition, either as members of the coalition, volunteers, or leaders in the coalition. Hosting, asking them to host or co-host and participate in prevention events at the school and the community. Educating parents about their critical role that we just talked about, communicating disapproval of alcohol and other drug use, monitoring their kids' activities and schedules, and targeting parents through social marketing campaigns and through the social medias. So one of the things we're going to do is we are going to ask which of the following activities. We're going to do a poll. And okay. The first poll I forgot to do, if you'll just indulge me for a minute. Can you see that poll? Mm-hmm. Okay, just tell me if you would not mind, if you would select your role in prevention so we can see who's here, and then we're going to ask about the activities. We'll give you another minute to answer the poll if you haven't. So we have about just over half of the people here are coalition coordinators. We've got 3 people who are coalition members and parent representatives, 3 who are coalition members, but not representing parents. They're representing another sector or a volunteer. We have 2 Resource Links members, some other prevention professionals who aren't involved in coalition work, and other. So welcome everyone. And then we'll go to the next poll. Okay. Oops. Excuse me just a minute. For some reason, I'm having difficulty. Oh. I'm having difficulty getting to my next poll. We'll put this all the way up. Okay, took me a minute there. Okay, can everyone see this next poll? It says prevention activities engaging parents. And which of the following activities do parents participate in your coalition?
No. We can't see at least.
Okay,
I think it's because you're sharing your screen too.
okay, thank you. Okay, can you see that now, the poll? No?
No.
Okay, let's try it again. There we go. Okay,
Here you go. Oh. We can only pick one answer, Lise?
yes,
Okay. So like the one that most represents
Yes.
what they do?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
just a fun fact, I got involved in my local coalition here in Southington as a parent when my kids were younger, wearing two hats, both as a parent and a substance misuse prevention person. Okay, we've got about 76% of folks have participated, and it looks like the most is parents or coalition members and share concerns about young people and the issues they're facing. Then we're parents is serving as, we're tied for parents attending coalition events, parents or parent organizations co-sponsoring events with the coalitions, and parents serving as coalition champions. And we have one where parents are helping or giving feedback on their social marketing, and one where parents feel comfortable talking with other parents about substance misuse. So that is helpful to know where folks are. Okay, and we'll go back to the okay, so that gives us an idea of where folks are. And we will go to the next one where we talk about needs assessment. And we're just going to quickly go through the 5 spiff steps. And needs assessment basically is about collecting data, local data that talks about substance misuse, consequences of that use, behaviors associated, indicators. And one of the important sources of data, of course, is from parents themselves. What are their perceptions about substance misuse in the community? What do they see as contributing factors to substance misuse? What do they know about when kids are using, where kids may be getting substances? And we can collect that data through different methods. Two of the most popular are doing parent surveys. And the second is doing focus groups with parents or key informant interviews, either with parents or with people who work with parents, asking them some structured questions. And we use that data to identify the priority substance, priority populations. Is it high schoolers we're looking at, middle schoolers? Is there subgroups within the high schoolers? For example, in one particular community, it may be athletes who are more at risk for using substances. In another community, maybe a different group of students. And then we use that data to help us plan what strategies we're going to use to identify the risk and protective factors. Okay, and then the second step is capacity. And we have a formula that talks about capacity. Capacity equals resources plus readiness. And resources are basically what we have at our disposal in the community, whether it be funding, people, partner organizations, a prevention system already in place, prevention programs that may have already been initiated that we can use to further our prevention goals. And readiness is how ready, willing, motivated is the community to work on this. And what we find is that sometimes we need to build that readiness by sharing the data that we've collected, by letting folks know that we're already working on prevention, what's been some of our successes, but basically using that data to tell a story and educate folks. And so capacity building is an ongoing activity of coalitions, both in terms of working with their coalition members, building their capacity skills and knowledge, as well as the community. And one of some of the tasks we do in terms of capacity is to engage parents, is scheduling coalition meetings and events when and where they can participate, using parent data to really develop our community's unique story regarding substance misuse and the associated risk and protective factors, sharing community data from youth and parents with community stakeholders and members of the community, again, to share our community's unique story. Seek out parents' input on the plan that we develop and the different strategies and activities. Do they see this working? If we're targeting parents, what do they think about the activities? How are those going to fly in our community? How can they get engaged and help us? Looking at different partner organizations, be it the PTO, or there may be other parenting groups in the community, and partnering with folks in the parent to leverage their connections with youth and parent in terms of implementing those. Okay, and step 3 is plan. We've identified the priority substance. We've identified the population. We've looked at risk and protective factors. Now the job is to create a prevention plan that addresses those risk and protective factors. And we want to use evidence-based strategies, those that have been deemed effective by research and reducing risk factors that we identified. Risk factor may be perception of harm. It may be where kids are accessing substances. It may be parent or peer disapproval or approval of a substance. And we also want to know, that's conceptual fit. The term, what does the research show that's going to be best in terms of changing those risk factors? And then practical fit is what's going to work in our community. We may have a really great strategy, but it may not be able to work in our particular community. I'm thinking of really quickly, an example may be teaching a particular curriculum in the schools, say it's 20 lessons long, and the school may say, we don't have the time for that. That's not going to work for us right now. So rather than reduce it to like 4 sessions, we're going to say, okay, we need to come up with a different strategy for reaching kids. And in terms of reaching parents, we need to start with and their readiness. So we may want to do a really high level parenting program, educating parents, but they may not have the time, energy, accessibility to come out to a multi-session program. So maybe we're going to start with like a community conversation first, before we look at implementing some kind of community based parent education program. We want to have measurable goals and objectives to track our progress in an evaluation plan. We want to have multiple prevention strategies that are ongoing and reinforcing each other. We want to engage the parent and other community sectors to help us with the planning and implementing the plan, ask for their perspective, and be mindful of cultural competency and our inclusion. And be thinking about the special populations, whether we're looking at LGBTQ youth and parents, whether we're looking at BioPIC, which is Black, Indigenous, people of color, athletes, faith-based youth groups, special ed populations or English as a second language, court diversion, kids who have been referred by the JRB. And then some examples of different ways of engaging these parents and getting them involved in the planning is noted on the bottom of the slide. Okay, can the coalition support parent panels to increase education and awareness? Do we want to work with parents to sponsor a guest speaker? How do we want to support parent learning on safe medication storage and disposal, providing training and resources from the coalition to local law enforcement about vaping, the new marijuana law? These are just some examples. And then implementation, that's where we put the plan into action, determining who's going to do the work, what they're going to do, when and where, coming up with a plan. And we want to note that the parent sector engages in prevention work every day. As we're raising our kids, we're teaching them social skills, we're connecting them with different organizations in the community. We're keeping an eye on the peers that they're hanging out with, getting to know parents. Hoping they're connected with positive peers, connecting them with positive role models, adults. And so the coalition can think about parents as primary prevention workers, if you will, and how can they support parents in that role, and also ask them to join us as volunteers and as experts in terms of raising kids and what do kids need. And so one of the things we can do is ask parents, what do they need around this particular issue? Do they need training or support? We can invite parents and organizations as guest speakers or to co-sponsor events with us, or we can offer to speak at one of their events. Ask them to share coalition education materials or social marketing. Ask them to use, and we can use multiple communication strategies to promote the coalition and our activities. And then this very last one, keeping track of our attendance. So we can, and different ways we're working with parents to, as part of our evaluation work that we're doing. And then the last one is evaluation. And that's basically looking at both the process. Are we implementing the program as intended? How many people are we serving? How were the different strategies evaluated? Were we able to implement them with fidelity the way they were designed? Outcome data is basically collecting data on how much kids are using substances. Has that gone down? The different types of substances. Are there changes in risk factors, knowledge and attitudes around substance misuse, because we know if we see positive changes there, that usually is associated with decreases in use. So looking at those changes, and if we're not seeing the outcomes that we're hoping, do we need to look at our plan and maybe look at some different strategies, or look at how we implemented those strategies? And we can invite parents to participate in the evaluation process. We can summarize the data and share it with them, with the community, with parents, with our stakeholders. Identify areas where we were successful. Think about what contributed to that success. Identify areas in need of focus and intervention. An example is a lot of coalitions, have educated folks, young people and parents around vaping. And they've instituted some policies, perhaps at their schools. They may be doing some education for kids and parents, but what they find is young people are getting identified for a second or third time. So do we need to increase what we're providing for kids and parents, or change, evolve, in terms of helping kids who may be addicted to vaping, for example? Okay, and then the two guiding principles are cultural competency, which we mentioned earlier, and looking at our community's unique cultures. What are some of the cultures? And this can include race, gender, gender expression, age, and other hidden populations. For example, do you have a population that's involved in the military, for example, that might benefit from support? So those are some of the different cultures that we're looking at. And describe how parents can contribute to the role of cultural competency. They can help us analyze some of this data. They can collaborate with stakeholders from underserved groups to conduct surveys or focus groups to enhance our knowledge of the needs and build partnerships. And they can double check and help us, ask those critical questions. Are our prevention initiatives accessible to underserved groups? Is the language accessible? Is the location accessible? Are we bringing in trusted facilitators to help us? And we're going to provide you with a chart to integrate cultural competency at the different steps. And then the last one is sustainability. And that's the goal of all prevention initiatives, is really looking at how do we maintain those over time? What kind of a system do we need to have in place? The coalition, people involved in the coalition, developing partnerships with organizations that can take over some of the prevention work, if possible, and if they're interested, to help maintain it. So either we can continue supporting them, or we can go on to some new prevention activities. And so what are some of the ways that parent representatives can help us? And one of the ways that they can do is service sector champions to lead and to generate enthusiasm, as well as working with our different prevention partners, whether it's the school, whether it's community-based organizations, to help conduct prevention initiatives. What information or resources do they need? And we have a chart that we will send you that talks about how parents and sustainability is important in the SPIF. So that's where we are. Before we get to the coalition speakers, do we have any questions, Jen, from our chat that we need to address?
No questions at this point that I'm seeing, just some comments.
Okay, so people are sharing comments. Thank you
Yes.
very much. Okay. Okay, thank you, folks. So now is the fun part of the program. You've listened to me talk about theory and practical, the work that we do. Now what we'd like to do is be able to have three respected folks in the Connecticut Coalition share some of their experiences, both in coalition work in terms of how they've engaged parents. What are some of the things that they've done in terms of providing support to parents? If they are parents, what are some of the things they've done and what advice do they have for engaging parents? What are some lessons learned in terms, what are their recommendations for engaging parents, supporting parents? And we're going to kick it off with Kelly Edwards, who is the coordinator of the well-respected Partners in Community Coalition in Clinton. And Kelly is a risk taker, a positive risk taker in developing some really innovative prevention programs that have engaged parents, bringing them together, teaching prevention messages, and building developmental assets. She is also a real role model in the state for youth development and building youth leadership as well. So what I'm going to try to do here is, and then we're going to go to Rene Noor, who is a media sector representative and parent volunteer with Fairfield Cares Community Coalition, another well-respected coalition in the state. And she, as a volunteer, manages their social media effort, which if you haven't already checked it and you're on Facebook or Instagram, go check it out. It's fantastic. And she handles the email distribution list to promote events, and she represents the coalition at events. And Denise Cicada, who is a member of another well-regarded coalition, Southington Steps Coalition. She's a parent sector member and a member of their executive committee. And she has served as an asset building classroom champion and a youth council advisor. And she has a background in communications and helps the coalition shape its messages and really communicate more clearly. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop this slide. And we are going to ask Kelly if she would mind kicking it off and talking with us.
Sure. Thank you for that embarrassing introduction. I think I've just been here a long time. I've been doing prevention since the 90s, and honored to have, had some longevity here in Clinton. I started with Kristen Sandler. I'm giving you a nod, girl, because it was our partnership that got this ball rolling. Proud to still be here after like 11 years. So I guess just to start it all off, as Lisa said, our strongest sector is definitely our kids. We've been lucky to have over 100 kids roughly a year involved in our youth leadership drug-free group. And with that comes their grown-ups. So we really try to tap into the kids that are involved and the parents of high school kids. I have a freshman in college and a junior in high school. All we see are the back of our kids' heads as they're leaving. Like I can't really remember what their faces look like. So we try to provide opportunities for parents and kids to actually do something together that isn't just listening to a speech or, the local prevention coordinator, blah, blah, blahing away. So we came up with a few years ago, something that we called the Family Olympics. And what that is we invite parents and their children of any age. And we've had kindergarten kids up through our seniors in high school. They come to either an outdoor venue or a gymnasium. And well, that was pre-COVID. So whatever your community can allow. We would feed them pizza and salad, and then we would engage them in a family parade where they wrote their family's assets and all good traits about their family on posters, and they proudly paraded around to some really upbeat sports like music. And then they went through the Family Olympics, which we happen to use the services of Empower Adventure Programming. There are lots of groups around the state that will offer this on site. Outside Perspectives up in the northern part of the state does it, and Power is located now in the middle of the state, but I'm pretty sure that they'll travel wherever you would like. And we engage the families in cooperative games. So there were challenges that they had to solve together as a family. And then the person that ran each activity would give them a grade on how well they communicated, how well they cooperated, and also how well they actually did the activity, like did they complete it? And then we gave out little awards at the end. And no, not everybody got a participation trophy. They got some literature about drugs and alcohol from us, but we did make it worth their while to come out and compete. And that every time that we have done that, it has brought out a lot of people just because it's fun. It's a little bit competitive. And as I said, it gives the parents something to do with their young people. And it's also a great opportunity to sit down and have dinner and talk with these parents. And as Lisa was saying, hear what some of their concerns are, hear what they're dealing with, and also listen to the young people and, what are they dealing with? So that was one of our favorite things that we've done in Clinton with parents. And if you have any questions or want any more information, please reach out to me. As others are talking, I can put my name in the chat if you don't have it, or my email in the chat if you don't have it already. Other things that we have done with parents are we have our monthly youth leadership group for the middle schoolers. The parents come also every month. And I have 4 high school students that we actually pay to be role models to our middle schoolers and take them through a bunch of similar learning experiential activities. And then I, as a parent and my kids are in the same school that their kids are. So we sit for an hour, and sometimes I take them through experiential activities, but more than not, we just talk about how to communicate with our young people, how to face some of the challenges as parents. And it's a nice kind of support group. So I've actually had parents call and just say, can I just be part of the adult part of this? My kid doesn't want to, but I do. So that's like been a real, just a good thing for us. We also had over COVID, we had some parents that hosted Zoom calls. It was kind of like a book club meeting, but it was come talk to a teenager kind of thing, where we had 4 or 5 of our more seasoned high school leaders host a chat for parents. So somebody like, say I would call my 10 or 12 friends and say, hey, can you guys log on to this Zoom at 7 o'clock? And we're going to talk for an hour to these sophomores and juniors from the high school and hear what some of their issues are, and we can talk to them. That was really exciting over COVID. People really liked that. The kids enjoyed having the opportunity to talk. So I highly suggest that. Zoom hasn't gone away. And I think as a parent, you got to reach these parents where they're at. And most of them are so busy. They might be in the car driving somebody back and forth from an activity. They might be on the couch because they're so exhausted. It's hard to get them out. So providing information and interaction through technology, I give that 2 thumbs up. That's been one of our bigger successes. Let's see. Lisa, did you want me to go through like all of these, or what's the best way to share all this?
I realize I'm talking and you can't hear me. Yeah, give us some examples. I think these have been great. I don't know if you have some additional examples. I think people are really looking for concrete ideas of what I can do, and then some lessons learned. And just Jennifer, did you have a point you wanted to make or comment?
There was just a question, so maybe that will help this part of the discussion, is how do you handle parents asking teens personal questions about their own use, etc.?
So we created some guidelines. Yeah, good question. We created some guidelines prior to that one of us, who was one of the coordinators, set out first and foremost in front of everybody. And one of them was, you can't ask them if they have done X, Y, or Z. that, we will put you on mute, we will do what we have to do, but that we were not to ask specific about them or their specific friend group, because in Clinton, where there's just a few people here, everybody knows everybody. So we really had to be clear on those guidelines, and I can offer those to you if you were interested. All right, here's
there's one more question, Kelly, really quickly.
Okay.
How did you get the teens engaged in those Zoom calls?
I have really worked on building relationships with our young people from literally, we start our youth leadership in 4th or 5th grade. And I work so hard on knowing the kids, knowing their parents, like I said, and just really building relationships with them. So the trust has to come. It wasn't something I just said, hey, who wants to do this? Nobody signed up in that respect. These are kids that I've connected with over the years, and they have a desire to make some changes in our community, and they realize that their voices can be a mechanism of that change because they're part of our coalition. They're part of REACT, which is our youth group. Some of them are officers. So just their desire to connect, because they've developed a trust in me, or my other coordinator is Shelby Mehmet, who she used to be a youth in the program, got her master's degree and came back. I've been very blessed. So I think that's important.
And Kelly, I suspect, knowing the youth that you work with and how you work with the youth, because of the relationships you've developed over time, these aren't kids who have just joined the program. These are kids who have been invested in the program. You've gotten to know them. And as they've done work with you, they've built the confidence and the comfort level to be able to do this. And knowing you, some of the kids may have even suggested some of these ideas.
Yeah. Yes.
So they may be seeing what their parents need or offering suggestions and helping to identify. That's one of the things I found from working with youth over a long term too, is that young people will start identifying needs and make suggestions. Why don't we do this? Have we thought about that? So thank you, Kelly. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
No, that's absolutely true, Lisa. And if you're considering this, one other way to start, we've done what we call community conversations, where we've actually had our young people identify a couple of not opposing groups, but like what the first one we ever did had 5 middle-agers, me being one of them, and then 5 teenage girls. And so there were 5 women and 5 teenage girls. And we just came together and we talked about softer issues. What's it like to be a female? Are there gender stereotypes? Just kind of like starting the conversation. And that's where a lot of trust was built. You could have a panel of young people that just talk about how to get involved in high school. That's a lot less scary than, tell me about marijuana use in 11th grade, right? So you could start something with like seniors and juniors talking to parents of incoming freshmen. How do you try new stuff at Morgan? How do you try new stuff at East Hartford High School or whatever? What are the things to do? How do you take that risk? So maybe start with a easier topic than, selling out your friends about the vaping or something like that. So, but please, contact me. We're happy to share everything we've done and talk about it, how it might work in your community. I love the kids and the parents, because I'm one of them. I feel like I have some insight that could help. So, okay, before I eat up everybody's time, let me just give you a few more things that we've done. So in order to share information with them, some creative things we've tried are adding like informational mailings into the tax bills that go out. So you've got to coordinate with your tax department if you work for a municipality on that. We've done some custom mailer postcards, like have you ever seen, is it value? The little coupon books that you get, they'll create for you custom postcards, and they'll mail them out for you for a much cheaper rate than you can mail them out. So that information I could get to you too, if you shoot me an email. So, not everybody sits and looks at their mail, but a standalone postcard with some cool colors and graphics might grab their attention a little bit. I know anything in my tax bill just makes me angry. So I wouldn't necessarily do that, but it is a way to get it into their hands. We always include something in the newsletters that the schools send out once a week. You know, we send out a little snippet to the principals, whether it's just some public health comment or something about Clinton, or we always try to say something positive about our young people and make it a big deal so that parents see, oh, wow, they really are advocating for our kids and giving them positive opportunities. We've really grown a great partnership with our PTA. So as Lisa had mentioned, you know, any organized group that's already out there, try to connect with them because they're great advocates. They'll share your stuff, they'll attend your stuff. And then, you know, one of the best things Kristen ever said to me the first couple of weeks we worked was, you got to scratch their back and then they'll scratch yours. And it's completely true. You know, we attend open houses. We go to the sports info nights. I know at Morgan, there's a special night set aside for the athletes. We always show up there because our athletes are one of our big risk groups. We do a haunted house every year as a fundraiser, and our parents are involved by helping us set up, helping us do the scares. We had a dad that loved to be a scary clown and he did that. So letting the parents have some fun with you too is so great. When we've gone out rock climbing or zip lining, we invite the parents to come and have that experience with their young people. A couple other specific things our parents have gotten involved in. They've testified at some of our public hearings, especially around our marijuana issue. They've actually testified up at the Capitol around marijuana. We have, okay, one more quick thing and then I will let you go. We identified through our data that the LGBTQ population was quite large at Morgan and also quite at risk for use and mental health issues, is not surprising. So we made a concerted effort to hold a couple of awesome focus groups with, we actually got 10 young people out and they really shared quite a lot of information, but they were scared. They had formed some relationships with our department, but didn't feel comfortable bringing them to something like a town council meeting or a board of ed meeting or anything like that. So we got permission to write summaries with anonymous feedback, and our PTA actually, because they had the better relationship with our principals and our board of ed, the PTA shared our summaries about the LGBTQ experiences that they shared with us. And I'm so thrilled to say that the pressure that the PTA applied has resulted in a huge change at our middle school, where there are lots of supportive bulletin boards, and flags are up and discussions are being had in a school where it wasn't even allowed to be spoken of before, and where the PTA has hosted a speaker, our coalition has hosted, and our library now is hosting as well. So as I said, those little connections with existing entities, they're going to pay off, whether it's a civic group, a church, anything like that. Work on those because there are parents in all of them. And if they're hearing the message from multiple places, it will stick better. So that's another example of just how the dots got connected and the community has really started a positive change, I think, for our LGBTQ population. So I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm going to put a whisper in your ear, National Prevention Network conference proposal. Think about it, both in terms of parent engagement and the work you're doing with the LGBTQ. So whenever I hear something really innovative, I'm always thinking workshop proposal.
Fair enough. I hear you.
Thank you, Kelly. And if people have questions, hopefully we'll have some time for people to ask questions as well. And next we'll go, and thank you so much. And next we'll go to our next presenter from Fairfield. Rene, would you like to talk about some of the work that you're doing, engaging parents and being a parent?
Sure. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to share my screen for a quick 3-hour presentation I have put together. And it's really showing us why I do this. This is a picture of my kids just last week. They are now 18, 19, 21 and 24, no, 22 and 24 years old. And this was just another recent picture of them. And if I can figure this out, how to do this. So this was the other recent picture that I have of them. And that was just, another few weeks ago. And this is why I'm involved. It's a blink of an eye. These little babies turned into young adults and lives of their own. And selfishly, this is why I do anything in life. And as we engage parents, we cannot engage them if they're not emotionally involved. A lot of times I have conversations, and I have a dear friend who's a social worker who said, I can't believe you're so involved with Fairfield Cares. You don't even have a kid in trouble. And then I go, well, that's why I'm involved, because I really don't want to have a kid in trouble. But what we find so much with our parents, they feel it's not something that affects them, so they don't have to pay attention. And then when their child is one, who is experimenting, who is in trouble, who needs help, they are so frazzled and have such a difficult time taking in information because it's just so difficult for them to even wrap their head around what's going on in their own house. So that's one of my biggest activities, really, or goals, is to engage parents, even though they feel it might not be one of their problems. And so I've done over the years, I became involved with Fairfield Cares as a parent foremost a number of years ago when I was helping a friend edit a video. I had no idea about editing videos, but you can do anything. So I edited a video and learned from her about Fairfield Cares and started attending coalition meetings. And what I found initially was I was very, very intimidated by all the acronyms, all the different grants, and who does what, and who's a volunteer, is there an employee, how does the coalition fit within the town structure? So as I was initially a parent, I found that, oh, these people are all just so amazing and I could never contribute. But then as I got more involved, I felt a bit more at ease. And I think that's still the case with a lot of parents. They think there is an organization out there, but it's outside of my sphere of influence. So I think we have a big opportunity to bring parents involved, no matter what their abilities are, what their levels are, and just like Kelly said, meet them where they're at. So we too have been at back to school nights and at the mandated sports athletic meetings that are once a quarter. And we attend events throughout town. We are very lucky to have a good relationship with the Fairfield Chamber of Commerce that always allows us to attend events for free and table. And so we recently went to the Harvest Market, and our young people were there and engaging with kids and playing. And if you see our Giving Tuesday email for today, there's actually photos from the Harvest Market in there. And it was really a great day. And I thank Kathy, our coalition coordinator, for staffing the table along with some of our coalition members. And then in terms of, communicating and getting information out, it really is all about the personal connection. It's, talking, with your friends and people all the time. So they, oh, guess what, Fairfield Cares, there's some information about this. Oh, guess what? What I found is, yes, we have a great email distribution list, but as we all know, we get thousands of emails a day now, and we can barely get past the headline or the subject line. So having personal connections is so extremely important. I will share on my screen again, and I hope it works if I share this screen, and then if I click through our website, you can still see everything that I'm clicking at. So you see our website now, which is currently housed under the town website. So we have a little limitation of what we can put up, but what's kind of nice, and I'm really grateful to our friends at the Hub who provide so much great content, so much great information that we can share. And I feel we don't give them enough credit and using their information enough. So, but we share a combined calendar on our website. We share our, let me move this. We share our Facebook page right on our front page. So you can see, and there happens to be Jen Jacobson, who is an active parent volunteer as well with her testimony. And so you can see our social media, at least our Facebook feed right there, and then links to Instagram and Twitter, and then other information. And I feel why recreate the wheel and make something new where there's such great information available. Like NAMI is a great resource here in Fairfield. And then most recently, You Think You Know, everybody probably is familiar with the campaign to combat counterfeit prescription medication. So we really seem to be able, I'm going to stop sharing again, but I really feel like it's a good way to get information out, and people can join our distribution list by clicking here. And so it makes it easy for people to find out about us. Another thing that I feel is so important is our relationship with our PTAs and PTA Council. PTA Council is basically the hub for all of our PTAs in town. And as a parent who just, whose youngest child just last year graduated high school, I've been involved in PTA ever since they were in kindergarten, and in PTA Council for many years. So I kind of gradually increased kind of my participation, and then transitioned into being a Fairfield Cares representative on PTA Council. And we've been able to host a lot of events together jointly. PTA Council has provided funds to 1 year rent a community theater for movie showing, Breaking Points, which was actually one of our best attended events that we've had, with 150 people attending and really being involved in the topic. And I found too that it was because it didn't yell at the parents of all the things that they're doing wrong, but it was showing them, this is a societal problem we have to attack or tackle together. That's when they come out. Whenever there's something we tell parents, all the things that they're not doing right, that's when they tend to go, yeah, whatever, I'm not showing up. That's really my experience here. And I do feel that basically just, carrying all your Fairfield Cares hat wherever you go, and meet the parents. And years ago, we did have a couple of years of a book club where we had the 2 high schools have a joint parenting book club, which was, it started out with a lot of people, and then as things got out, we tended to be the organizers there by ourselves. But I think it might be a good way to rekindle that, and because there's a new crop of parents interested in the topics now. And so I have to say, I also feel personally as a parent, I have gained so much by being a member of Fairfield Cares and being involved in prevention work. And then going back further upriver and learning things about, brain development and emotional development and all these things I wish I knew when my kids were those little babies from just a little while ago. But I thank you, Lisa, for the opportunity to speak today, and I really enjoyed these networking opportunities and learning what other coalitions are doing. I think that's great. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for sharing some of the work you've done, and just the importance when you said, tell parents what to do, don't yell at them, don't tell them what they're doing wrong. It reminds me of kids as well. Everybody benefits from being recognized for the positive things they do. And I think parents do want to know, how do I talk to kids? What do I do? How do I handle this? So you're bringing up some great points. And I want to find out how you all are driving 1,000 people a month or 1,000 website visits a month. So
Maybe that's just me because I'm always on there doing stuff. I don't know.
and I think you're right. You have one of the most productive Facebook and social media. I follow you that I've seen, and I think one of the things that you do so well is you're not just sharing coalition information, but you're sharing youth development and parenting and mental health information. So you're it's really an educational service for parents that you're doing that's so important. So thank you so much. And then we'll pass this on to Denise. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I do have some slides to share, so I'm just going to share my screen. And let me know when you can see that. Good, excellent. Thank you again. My name is Denise Cicada. I'm a parent representative and executive committee board member with Southington Steps Coalition. Thank you, Lisa, for the opportunity to be here today. And wow, I'm just really impressed with what I've heard so far, with what everyone has shared, either in the chat or Kelly and Rainey in their presentation. A lot of it is very familiar. A lot of familiar work that we've been doing here in Southington. And I'm excited to be here to share with you some of the campaigns and communications that we've done here in Southington as well. So what I've heard consistently, all of you say, is meeting parents where they are. We definitely know that times are changing. The pandemic certainly brought on a whole new wave of doing things differently, certainly the impetus of more technology. And we know that parents are out there. We know that parents are need us and need the support. And we really need to find out, where they are and meet them where they are. So one of my favorite stories about how I became involved in STEPS was actually attending my children's open house in elementary school. So I have two daughters who are in high school, junior and senior year of high school. And at the time they were newcomers to the elementary school. And they came home from school and were talking about assets. And I honestly did not know what they were talking about. They were learning about them in school. It was definitely ingrained. And I quickly, attended the open house. And at that point, they had, I remember, papers on the table asking for parents to sign up for anything and everything they'd be willing to give their time to. And I saw something that said STEPS Parent Committee. And it was at that moment that I made the connection between STEPS and asset building, and knew that that was something I needed to do a little bit more, to get more involved in and to learn more about. So from there, I became a member of the parent committee, quickly engaged in the community. From there, engaged actively with the elementary school in asset building classrooms, became a champion, a parent champion, engaging in training our elementary, middle school, and high school students on the assets, on the importance of building assets to prevent risky activity. And then as my daughters moved up their way through the ranks in school, became very involved in what we have as our youth council. So our youth council is something that involves students age or grades 8 through 12. And it takes it to the next level where they really are involved in more community-based activities. And I will share some of those campaigns that they came up with themselves. And so I knew very quickly that I believed strongly in the mission of STEPS. It was something I was very passionate about and I needed to be part of. And so I know that, meeting parents where they are, being visible at open houses, participating and being visible at football games or sporting events or social media. We have a Facebook page. We now have an Instagram page. We're out. We have our website. We just need to get ask them to get involved. And there are people like me. I have to believe there are more parents like me that want to know more, but just don't know where to go or where to get the information. And so I think there's opportunities for us to kind of find out where they are and how we can engage them. A big part of that is just, hooking them, look at me, I've been part of STEPS, and here I am presenting to all of you about how we've gotten parents engaged in the campaigns that we've been working on. So for the sake of time, I want to just move things along really quickly. There have been several campaigns that have been geared towards parents. We have some of you may be familiar with our STEPS liquor stickers. This was actually licensed and trademarked as an idea that stemmed out of our STEPS Youth Council members to reduce youth access. If coalitions from other areas can actually purchase these with your logo branded on them, and they've just been phenomenal. We've worked very closely with our local businesses to have those made available in our package stores. We've done a lot of work in educating our parents about liquor stickers. I encourage everyone to go to our southingtonsteps.org website. We've got a tremendous amount of information as well as videos that we've engaged our youth in to develop to promote these liquor stickers as well. We also have conversation cards. I heard that, parents are challenged by having conversations. I have 2 teenagers. Sometimes it's hard to have those conversations, to ask the right questions, to get something out of them other than "how was your day?" Okay. So those conversation cards are there to just initiate those difficult conversations. Some of them are just regular topics. Some of them are some of those tough topics. We have conversations cards. Like I said, we have strong partnerships within with our local businesses. You'll often find those conversation cards at many of the restaurants where you're out to dinner, and as opposed to looking at your phone, you pull out the conversation cards and you start walking through and asking those questions. Some other things are the parent prevention checklist. How many times have we talked about you put sunscreen on your child, you make sure they're seat belted? Well, what else are you doing to keep them safe? What else are you doing to help prevent them from taking risky behaviors? So those are also assets that we've developed. And then, we're asking parents to help advocate for Tobacco 21. So the importance of the ever-changing world of the legalization of tobacco and now marijuana, it makes it even more challenging to raise children in this environment. So these are some creative campaigns that we've introduced here in Southington. Another one that, again, is talking about literally communication, and it's Take 15. This is something that we had a significant campaign asking parents to just take 15 minutes out of their day to talk to their teenagers. It doesn't have to be an event. It could be a quick couple of questions. It could just be about, what do you need from me? What can we do to make things better? There were, I have this little card here, and on the back side is some examples of initiating those conversations, talking about healthy habits, things that your parents taught you, things that are tough, best experiences with each other. It's all about generating a conversation. Too often we see in a lot of our survey results that our students are feeling as though they don't have someone to talk to. And I think that there's a disconnection from a communications perspective, where parents think they're there and readily available and accessible, but maybe the kids don't know how to talk to them, or they don't know how to talk to their teens. So it's a matter of providing the right tools and giving them the tools that they need to have those conversations effectively. Another example is Parent University. This was something that we introduced to our community a couple of years ago. It was a unique opportunity for parents and caregivers to really learn more about current trends in substance use, vaping, nicotine products, prevention strategies. I saw on someone else's slide, there was a reference to hidden in plain sight. So there were, it was really a workshop format. It gave parents the opportunity to select and opt into what workshop they were interested in participating in or attending to learn more. They had the ability to register online. And this was actually something that we introduced in person in 2019 and offered virtually last year. So we've been able to provide, access to a lot of great information and resources to parents. However, I think what I'm hearing is, how do we get them to show up, right? So the challenges that we've all been facing, and I've heard this very clearly in our conversation so far today, is what is it that we can do to help them to show up? We know we all have busy lives. Many of us on this call are parents. We're all stretched. We're working professionals. And we're trying to figure out how to reach parents where they are. We're trying to figure out what are they interested in. We are trying to realize, identify those parents who are saying, not my child. My children, my teenage daughters are actively involved in steps. They're actively involved because I made them get actively involved at a very young age. Because like Rainey mentioned, that's my life. They are my life. They're the reason why I wanted to be part of this coalition, to make the community a better, safer place for them. And they knew very early on what STEPS was all about, what the mission was all about, and how they can get involved in their community. But there are parents out there that don't know where to begin. And some of them are thinking it may be too late, and it's never too late. So I'm really interested in learning from you, how else can we reach those parents who are already feeling like they're overburdened, who are already feeling like they're stretched. And, I heard Kelly say, we've got to reach them where they are, whether they're exhausted on the couch, whether they're, working and they're trying to squeeze in, 15 minutes here and there during the day, whether it's while they're exercising, however it is. We've got to find a way to reach them and help them understand that the resources and the information is available to them, and that they have an impact in their children's lives. And, being a trusted adult for those who don't have the resources, and the parents or guardians that many children don't have access to today as well. So I think those are, I don't have answers. There's no silver bullet. One of the things I want to say is don't give up, right? So we know that we have to be creative. We do have very strong partnerships with our Board of Education. We work very closely with our Southington YMCA. We have opportunities to work with our local businesses and our government. So, the best thing that I can recommend is connect with other parents. We've got a network of friends, and then they have a network of friends. And I share as much as I can on Facebook and social media with all of those friends, and make them aware. And oftentimes, we're just bogged down by emails and information overload, but it's a matter of just having it infused in your conversation. Wearing the wearing the logo on your clothing, and walking advertisement for what you're promoting. So finding ways to share the information within your community, and then it'll have a trickle out effect. But certainly in this changing environment, we have to constantly evolve and be agile and try new things and test and learn. And I really think that's really the impetus of the whole strategic prevention framework, is really assessing, collecting the data, looking at that data, trying to share that, and pivot and try to go to a different direction and change the messaging based on that changing environment. So that's just a little bit, about what we've done here in Southington. A lot of it, like I said, feels very familiar to me, and what you're doing with your coalitions to try to break down those barriers. Some of those individuals that we often see, those parents and those students that are actively involved in the coalition, are the same people that we're tapping into. And I'm really interested in reaching those other students, those other parents who we are not consistently tapping into. Because I know that, they have friends and they're trying their best to kind of promote the programs as well. But what can we do better to make it easier for them to participate and not feel the pressure of what you're doing wrong, but how you can get actively engaged to be, make your community a better place to be. If you have any questions, I'm a representative on the executive committee and the board, but Megan Albanese, and I know Kristen Sandler's on the call today, representing STEPS. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Megan or Kristen, and be sure to visit our website for lots more information.
Thank you, Denise. And thank you for not only sharing strategies in terms of communicating with parents and involving them, but also the content. What is it that we can be talking about and sharing with them as well? Because I think that's important. Sometimes we run out of ideas, or we think, oh, we've already talked about this, but we can repackage it in another way, as you said, creative hooks to get people's attention. And the other thing, I think that one of the things we can keep in mind is for parents too, is just like with young people, we're planting seeds. We're constantly communicating with folks with the idea that somebody may not be ready now, but as we plant seeds, maybe they'll be ready later. I use the example really quickly that I got involved in our coalition when my kids were in elementary school, but I couldn't attend the 8:00 a.m. meetings because I was putting my kids on the bus. So I offered to work at open houses, and that's how I got involved. And then as my kids aged up, I was able to get more involved in the coalition and then get involved in leadership. As my confidence grew and I learned more about the coalition and that type of thing. So it's constantly, planting seeds, and you never know when those seeds are going to plant. But, meeting parents where they are is so important. So thank you so much for sharing, all three of you. Thank you. Well done, ladies. And I appreciate, hopefully we've provided people with some good ideas on what you can do. What I'm going to do, if it's all right with everybody, is I will summarize some of the things you've talked about and send that out with the presentation slides, a link to this recording, so people will have that information. And if the three of you don't mind, I'll put down contact information as well. But thank you. I really appreciate what you've done. Do we have any? Yes, Kelly.
I just wanted to say, if people want to look around at our website, I put that in the chat. It's just clintonpic.org. There's articles and things in there of things that we've been doing since Kristen was along, 10 years ago. Just a good place to get some more ideas. And the other piece, we do have a marketing person on our coalition right now, and her advice to us is keep your messages super simple. Don't give them too much at any one shot. And infographics are always better than a paragraph. Keep the number of words very limited. Just, as far as how people are consuming things, this is the feedback that she gave us. And overall, it seems to be working. So frequent posting with a little bit of information at a time. And then, as Fairfield showed, link it up to a website that has more, of the bulk if somebody really wants to get their hands around it. So sorry, just wanted to pass that along that she shared with us.
Yep. Mark just asked a question for the presenters. Mark Nickel, what is your most effective go-to pickup line to get parents involved or engaged? Do you have a certain elevator speech or a certain one of the things that I often say is I'm interested in keeping kids safe, and I'm interested in supporting all kids in Southington, not just my kids. Those are two of the taglines I often use when I'm talking with parents or other folks.
Right now, I start talking about marijuana because everybody's like, "Oh my God, what? What's going on?"
Yep.
I get a lot of attention with that just topic right now. And the other thing is, as everybody has said, if you come at it from like, we're all in this together, and that they are an asset, not a liability, and that they're not people who need information, but who could offer it. That is always an angle that I see people turn back around about, because as I think as Ricky said, you don't want to be told you're doing it wrong. But if you think, oh, I might have something of value that could contribute to this conversation, that does tend to get more people.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree with Kelly. And what I also do is when I talk to parents, the fact that they are the most critical influence on their children's decision making, just like Sondheim said in my quote that I put up earlier. I say, you don't give yourself enough credit. You have such an influence about your child and what they do. Even if they don't talk to you, even if they just grunt at you, you are such an influence. And for many parents who think that it's only the peers and only their friends that can influence their child, that's an eye-opener.
That's such a good point. And I'm going to remember that the next time my youngest grunts at me. Thank you. Thank you.
If I could,
Denise.
yes, if I could just add on to what Kelly and Rainey have said, I typically just bring it to a very personal level and ask them what their challenges are with their teenager, and make it a relatable conversation, and share with them what I've learned by being part of STEPS, by being engaged in the community and engaging my children in STEPS, and how they've really learned a lot about substance use and prevention, and things to be aware of, and how to participate in community activities that make them more comfortable. So I use the really a relatable personal message from myself of just asking them questions around, what are your challenges? Because I know I'm not alone in this, and we're all in this together. So
you bring up a really good point, because in generations past, extended family lived closer together, and parents could often go to extended family members for help, or they may have been more connected with a faith organization, and may have had parenting mentors there. And the busyness of today, plus those connections are looser. I think that's such a key thing, in terms of creating a parent network, and asking them, what are some of the challenges? These are some of the things I've learned. This is a good place, or a good mechanism for me to learn more. That's, I think, really critical. I'm reminded of my husband, who both my mother and father-in-law have passed away, and he doesn't have a parenting mentor really to help him. He's got his siblings, but it's not the same as being, I can ask my mom, about how did you handle this with me, or what advice do you have, and he doesn't have that. So I think that's a really, really key thing. It is 11:26. What I'm going to do is just really quickly, we're not going to go over this in the interest of time, but I want you to see what else is in the presentation slides. Really quickly. And I'm just gonna, okay. So we had our presentation. Thank you, ladies, for doing that. And then the next thing, if we had more time, was we'd talk about sectors of involvement. What are the different levels of involvement, from no involvement to networking, cooperation, coordination, and collaboration? And this is something that we can look at all of our sectors. But I think looking at parents in particular is really important, whether it's those parenting organizations that people mentioned, or just getting parents more involved, and growing their engagement, and inviting them and making connections with them. When you see them at events, or they've asked for, inviting them to participate into the next level, into the next step, another activity, and growing that relationship with them. And so you can read more about this when we send it to you. And then we just identified some common barriers to engagement that you all have already discussed. And time may be an issue. They may not see substance misuse as a priority. Parent groups may not be aware of the work that we're doing. We may have not created connections with those parent organizations, and we need to be more intentional about that. And one is just recruiting and sustaining parent participation over time. And I think Kelly discussed this with the youth, but it also applies with the parents, is building relationships. And one of the things we talk about is coalition work is so much about relationships, building relationships with partners, with volunteers, with young people, with parents. And then here's some ideas for engaging that sector. Many of these that you've already talked about. And then we always put in a plug for the regional behavioral health action organizations, the RBHAOs. Connecticut is divided into 5 regions, each with its own RBHAO. And you can go to these to find out what's happening in your region. They often are coordinating LPC, Local Prevention Council, or coalition networking meetings or educational meetings, and find out about campaigns that they may be doing. And they offer a lot of resources to coalitions as well. So we wanted to make sure you were aware, and you can basically look at the map, your town, and figure out what region you're in. And we've got their websites. And then this is the chart that we mentioned earlier about how to weave in cultural competency into each of the steps. And we have the same thing with sustainability, thinking about sustainability for each of these steps. And then this is something that we wanted to share with you, and you can read it more at your leisure. It's just an idea of some of the trainings we offered, the tools that are available on our website, different explainer videos, 3-4 minute videos that you could share or post on a website to engage parents, to educate them. You could use them at a coalition meeting, a PTA meeting. And then this is, ways to connect with us on the right. And here's some upcoming trainings that we're going to be doing. Not all of these have been posted. The December trainings are posted on our website, so you can register. But we also have trainings that we'll be posting soon and emailing you about coming up in January. And we'll be doing another 12 sector focused on government. On January 11th, we'll be repeating Prevention 101. We'll be repeating Prevention Specialist Overview, the application, the certification. We'll be doing Prevention Ethics, starting another run of those 3 sessions, and another gambling. And then something that we haven't done in a couple of years on January 6th is we'll be talking about National Prevention Week. We're going to be hosting a lunch and learn, an hour, talking about what National Prevention Week is. That's a national celebration that's held the second week of May. And what are some ideas that coalitions can do to either celebrate prevention that they're doing? How can they tag what they're doing already with National Prevention Week, or use National Prevention Week as an opportunity to do some coalition marketing, some celebrating of what we do in prevention. So those are some of the things that are coming up. And I don't know if we can put the survey link in the chat box, but if we, oops, I think I just lost it. Hang on just a minute.
Lisa, while you are getting the link to put in the chat box, can I make an announcement about one of our upcoming products?
Yes, please,
Okay,
Jennifer.
I'll give you some time to get the link in. So first to hear it, as we are celebrating the parent sector today and learning more about parents, I just wanted to let you all know, and you will be the first to hear it, that TTASC, in collaboration with the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, has created an ebook on A Parent's Guide to Opioid Prevention. That's going to be launching soon, hopefully. We're just putting some finishing touches on it, but it will be available in both English and Spanish. Has several chapters around opioids, including communication tips around this and several other chapters. But just wanted to let you guys know that as soon as those resources are available on our website, we will be sure to get them out to you. But we're really hopeful that this is going to be a really good product for your communities and for our state. So just wanted to make that known to everyone here. So thank you for the moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen, for talking about this new ebook. We are very excited about it, and a lot of work went into it. And I think one of the neat things about it is there's different developmental levels. So you can, you know, what do parents of young kids need to know, middle schoolers, high schoolers, launching kids out into the bigger world. So we're very excited about it. And we'll be having a parent event in April. A parent speaker that will be talking more about that with you. So I've put the Survey Monkey link in the chat box. If you would like to, we would very much appreciate it if you could give us feedback on today's event. And I think we are officially done. It's 11:34. Thank you for your patience. If we will stay on, staff will stay on a little bit longer. If you have any questions, and you can always email us as well if you have questions. But we will be sending out a link to this video recording, the PowerPoint presentations, and a quick summary of some of the points that our presenters shared, as well as their contact information. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. And we look forward to seeing you next month when we talk about, or January, when we talk about government, the government sector.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly, Denise, and Rene. Thank you. Thank you.
You can stop recording probably now too, Lisa.
Thank you.